Hej och välkomna tillbaka. Vi kommer att fortsätta med programmet. Det här är den sista presentationen före lunchtid. Vi ska nu lyssna på GomSpace och deras vd Niels Buus. Welcome Niels.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Yes, thank you for giving me this opportunity to give the presentation from GomSpace. You can see on the first slide here the development of Nano Satellites in a figure from 1 cube up to a Nano Satellite with several cubes. And that illustrates that the Nano Satellites are becoming bigger and bigger and actually will have a larger size so they can perform much more advanced things as we go into the future. But let me first introduce myself and the team. I have been in this business for more than 20 years, defense and security, space for a large part of it. I have a technical background and a commercial background. We have a CFO who's been here since the IPO as well, Troels Nørmølle, who's also very accomplished and very energetic young man. We have a strong management team, and we have a very experienced board headed by Jukka Pertola, the former Siemens chairman in Denmark. And we just recently added Jens Målø, who is running the biggest defense company in Denmark and also have a background with some business in satellites. GomSpace, as I think most of you are very aware, is a Danish company founded in 2007. We were listed at the Nasdaq in Sweden in June 2016. We have been making these satellites since 2007. Actually, before that, the founder started at the university. We are now in a lot more than 50 countries and have been on, we estimate, on the very good side of 75 different space missions. We are headquartered in Aalborg, in Denmark, but we have operations in Sweden, in Uppsala, and in Luxembourg, and the sales office in the United States. You can see that our growth has been quite substantial. Actually, it is close to 15 times since 2014. And we also expect to continue our growth, and we expect to keep the outlook for the year that we have announced earlier. The new space economy is based on a long tradition in space. If you see the pictures, everything started in the United States with the first liquid-fueled rocket in 1926. In the beginning of the 70s, or during the 70s, we had the space station. That's only well, we were on the moon 43 years after the first rocket, and now we are on our way to Mars, and of course we'll get to Mars. The achievements to do this is by any measure the same or can be compared with what have been going on previously. The new space economy is the space business very much driven by commercial money, and we are part of that, and we can see that is spreading all over the world with high speed. And we can also see that many governments are getting into the race, inspired by all these private investors going into this. Nano satellites, I think is small satellites with a form factor of a cube put together in various size. One thing that is important to note is that it's low Earth orbit, 500 to 800 kilometers. That means that it's relatively near to the Earth, much closer than the normal communication satellites, which is in geostationary, which is 40,000 kilometers away. The small satellites are being launched by small rockets, so it's very versatile. Sometimes you can even think of it very much mission-oriented, especially for defense and security purposes. The applications is also very interesting. Obviously, that's what is driving everything for us. Internet of Things is a very, very important driver for many places in the world right now. Many established businesses are changing their business model from being an equipment manufacturer to also being a service provider. And that requires that they can have information about their equipment, no matter where it is on the Earth, no matter what government regime it's under, and no matter what the weather is. That gives a big opportunity for nanosatellites in that respect. Tracking of aircraft and ships, communications, and a lot of other things is important. Communication is being challenged at the moment because the big communication companies have geostationary satellites. They are very long way away from the Earth, and that means that working on the internet is not very efficient because there's a lot of time difference, and that gives a not smooth internet connection. That's why many companies are now moving to low Earth orbit. And with the challenge from the Starlink satellites from SpaceX, we expect that the 10 to 15 to 20 established service providers in the communication area, they will be looking for low Earth orbit solutions in the future. We are a part of a changing space business. If you see in the left corner, the big satellites and the person next to it, and right the next one, you can see one of our founders working on a very small satellite. That makes it possible to disperse the satellites in constellations all over the globe at a very attractive cost. So that's the idea, that's the trend that's going on, and it's a change compared to the other kind of changes in the computer industry, in the mobile phone industry that is going on. Our mission is to help teams across the globe achieve their goals in space. And our vision is to make nanosatellites the preferred solution for mission-critical professional radio-based surveillance and communication solutions. And that is something that we're focusing strongly on. Our core strategy is to supply technology to service providers and into the different verticals. That's why we are a horizontal service provider, a technology provider, as you can see on the slide. Our business model is that we make subsystems. We have a good basic sales of subsystems to other companies and universities and others who are either testing and building satellites for educational purposes, science purposes, and things like that. We also make the satellite platforms, and that's what I showed you. The platform size is growing. The one on the picture is 3U. We are already now on our way to 12U satellite. We are working on payloads, especially radio payloads. That's the instrument on board the satellite, and so that's our area to look at. And we are on the way to constellation management. In Luxembourg, we are investing a high amount of money backed by ESA and the Luxembourg government to make constellation management of the total satellite systems. And when you are sending up a satellite, there's a lot of things that you need to have in place. You need to have a launch, you need to have permissions to radio frequency, permission to launch and things like that. So we can help the customers doing that. And you can see on the right, we're working still in the academia area. That's where we started, in the science, defense, and the commercial area. And the size of those are varying over time. Right at the moment, the science area is very big, but that would change again in the future. If we look at the customers and ongoing examples, you can see here that we have a French customer called Unseen Labs, who's working on IOD, meaning in-orbit demonstration tests at the moment. We have Hawkeye 360 in the US, where we're making part of the payload for that. And then Claire's in Luxembourg, who, by the way, launched their 4 satellites with the Indian PSLV on Saturday. And this morning, I was told that they are successfully working in space. And they are being put into operation as we are speaking at the moment. This is very important, very eventful for us. If we look at the technology development, that's done with ESA and the work we do with ESA. We 1 or 2 months ago signed a big contract on the Juventas project, which is a 6U satellite that is going with another big satellite up to an asteroid called Didymos. where it's going to make measurements, and it's eventually going to land on the moon of that asteroid. Very, very advanced project, and something that is pushing the limit of GomSpace to be able to perform even more professional things in the future. We have just landed a GomX5 satellite. That's it says 2U. It's actually one 12U satellites to be launched in 2022. That's the one on down on the right corner. That's a communication satellite where we are testing high bandwidth communication at a very, very long distance into space. Another one is the EMARCO project, which has just been in phase A and are hopefully with the ESA participation going to continue into a full satellite mission as well. These projects with ESA are very important because that's where we are developing new technology that we otherwise would have very, very big difficulties in being able to finance. So this is something very important for us. The competitive landscape, I will not go so much into this here, but we have direct competitors. We have some of the vertical integrated service companies that make their own satellites. Our hope in the future is that we can make that inefficient for them so that they will buy instead of making themselves. And then there's the big players who we are competing with when they are making more big and expensive systems. The nano satellite business and the satellite business is expected to grow into the future. It's expected to grow a lot from the current 300 million to 2.7 billion in 30 years it says here. And what is going to happen is that the satellites can be made smaller and smaller, and that means that you can afford to have more and more of them. So we expect that the number of satellites is going to raise proportionally into the future. This is something that we regard as a very, very good trend, but also over a long time. Our financial performance, you can see our financial performance is going up. We have very much changed the performance of the company. If I start with the order intake, we've had a very good order intake in the third quarter, we are having an order book now at the good side of 200 million Swedish krona. You can see that the sales is also very good. The last 12 months is a little less than 160 million now, and for this month a little less than 40. Q3 a little less than 40 million. You can see our working capital has increased substantially. We had a lot of prepayments that is very helpful for us, and you can see we have a very good balance on the working capital position. Down on the left, you can see that at the moment it is the science area that is the biggest area for us, and I say these are going to change over time. But in these times with the corona and the world that have big challenges at the moment, we are regarding ourselves as very fortunate to have this kind of customers at the moment. At the same time, we are developing technology. Our operating profits is going up. We are very, very close to have the positive cash on operations, which is a positive result on operations, which is the first goal on our way to recovery. And you can see that our employer status have been brought into control. If I should mention some key takeaways from here, our financial situation is recovered. We are focusing on continuous improvements. We obviously are not quite where we want to be yet, but we have a stable ground, and we have a very, very good ability to improve ourselves continuously, which is very, very important. The market situation is that it is consolidating at the moment. The startups are working to show results. At some point, a lot of money went into new startups. Now the investors are waiting a little bit to see if they can produce results. and at the same time, we can see that the established service players are considering to entering as customers also in our area. That is the push to go into low Earth orbit so that they can have a more competitive system for more rapid response to the communications on Earth. And in the meantime, we have developed, and we are developing technology for very advanced nanosatellite systems, which at the moment is backed by government money in Europe, in the United States, and many other places. And with our participation with ESA and the Luxembourg government, and in Sweden, and to some extent in Denmark as well, we are consolidating ourselves by building new technology and being ready for the next push as we go forward. So these were my key points that I would like to make today. I can see that I have been very fast. I hope I have not been too fast, and I hope it's giving a good view on where GomSpace is today.
Okay, thank you very much, Niels, for a very interesting presentations. Of course, we have a couple of questions, if we may.
Sure.
Yeah, you had a very strong order intake in Q3, I think.
Yes.
Congratulations. And how has the fourth quarter started out?
It has started good. So we are following our budget, and we are still very comfortable on that level.
Yeah. When it comes to your order book, you have roughly 200 million left to deliver. How long will it take until you have delivered everything from your order book?
We have not announced any complete budget for next year, so I have to be careful how I'm saying that. But I can also say that we are well established with our order book for the next period. Some of it have to be delivered over more than 1 year.
Okay.
So we are reaching well into next year. Some of it for the year after, and only a little bit for the third year.
Yeah. You described a little bit about the competition, and that space has become some sort of crowded space for investors, right? And you see consolidation going forward. Is that only the startup companies that you think will consolidate, or is it also your competitors?
As I look around, we can see that there's some kind of consolidation on company level as well, and I think that will happen to some extent. And you could normally say, if you're in a growing business, it doesn't really make sense to discuss consolidation. But we are also in a pulsating business where you have periods of growth, and then you have periods of sort of breathing out, and in those periods it's likely that there will be some consolidation as well, and I think that will continue at some pace. But we are not, as a business, in a major consolidation period. So I think some will go that route, and others will say, no, we will build on the internal strength, and perhaps in that way be more cautious to build the internal strengths, which can be difficult when you're doing a lot of mergers and acquisitions.
And your take is on when it comes to merger and acquisitions?
We do not have any plans in that direction.
No, you will focus on your business, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we have a second wave of COVID, I think, at least in a lot of countries. How does that affect your day-to-day business, and in the long run, does it affect your business in any way?
When it happened, I think we were all terrified, and then we realized maybe it wasn't so bad as we could have thought. And the amount of, or what, how do you put it, that people can work from home to the level they can, and still you have a sense that everybody is caring about the company. People are caring about their workplace, has been absolutely fantastic. We are like more together than we have ever been and than I have ever tried, I would also say. So that is very, very good, and we have been able to communicate with our colleagues and people in the company to a level that I think we would not have dared to do before this. Ask for things that you would otherwise think this would be impossible. So we have had a massive support in that sense. Now we have come down. We're in northern Jutland, and we are not in a community where there's a lockdown, but in some of the other communities there's a lockdown, and we have a few people who cannot come in. Most of them can work. Most of those who cannot come in can work from home, but we also have a few production people who it is very important they come in. So what we are doing is that we are trying to mitigate that situation. It's only marginal, and we will be able to mitigate it. Is our thought now, our expectation now. But I think also we should think of the Corona situation, the COVID-19 situation. Maybe we are only reaching the middle of those problems. I don't think we should lean back and say we got everything solved. I don't think anybody shall. I think it would be the safest is to be prepared for even more in this situation, and we are certainly prepared for that.
That sounds good. How does that? I mean, how does that affect you guys when it comes to sales processes? Is that? I mean, from an internal point of view, it seems like you're working out fine. But does the lockdowns and different nations' rules, does that affect your pipeline in any way?
I wish I could say yes, and then there would have been more out there. But I don't think so. I think it'll have an effect, but we have had quite good things lined up. It's difficult to learn new customers, to learn to know new customers, people where you got to build up a new relation. I think that's suffering. But places where you have done it, and where it's a matter of detailing out technical details, contractual details, and things like that, it has actually gone reasonably well over the internet and on Teams and Zoom or whatever it is we're using. That's reasonably okay. I think the project sales or the standard sales we have has not been affected. We had our sales director said that people are home, they have now the time to fill out the forms and to get the orders out. But when it gets to the projects, it is a little bit more difficult. But it's reasonably okay. I think where the challenge is that we have, as I just said, learning the business development, where you're trying to cultivate new future business, and that's probably where it's hurting at the most at the moment.
Yeah, you have a couple of targets, and I mean you're moving in quite good pace towards your operation targets. Do you think you will need to create new targets for next year? Or is that too much of a forecast, maybe?
It is, but no, the plan is still the same. It is to make sure that we have the cash we can do and invest with our own money, reduce or increase the efficiency of the company, and adapt ourselves. Make sure that our cost level is something that both can make us efficient, but also continue to increase our profitability. That's what we're focusing on. So it's not. It's quite steady on that, and also the management team is extremely focused on that part of it.
Yeah. Another question. I mean, you had such a good order intake in Q3, but going forward, this will still be going up and down, right? It will be a little bit volatile, or what's your take on the order intake?
Yeah, and we aim to, over the long run, go up.
Yeah.
Also on this basis that we're working here, just to make sure that I'm not misunderstood. But in a project-oriented company where the orders can be big and be small, then yes, the nature is that you can have a very good month, and then on very good quarter, and next quarter is lower, and then the third quarter or the quarter after that again will be big again, and that's the nature of our kind of business.
Yeah.
So that sometimes spans over a couple of quarterly reports, and then we will have to explain it the best we can what it is that is happening.
Yeah, I have a question from our audience, and he or she would like you to elaborate a little bit how you differ yourselves from a company like SpaceX. How are you different?
There's many ways.
Yeah, it takes some time.
Well, one of the things is that SpaceX is very, very big. They are very, very vertically integrated. They basically make everything from top to bottom. They make the satellites, they make the rockets. They are involved in so many things. They are investing very, very aggressively. They are in many ways setting the scene. I hope that we could be setting the scene in our little corner of the business, but in that respect, there's a big difference. So that's I think that's the easiest way to put it.
Yeah, so they are not like a competitor to you guys.
Not at all. No,
exactly.
No. Actually, I think what SpaceX have done with the Starlink satellites, they are challenging the whole established community of communication service providers like Inmarsat, like all the others who are making a big global satellite communication with a low Earth orbit satellite, with low Earth orbit satellites, where you can use stream and use what's it called internet without any delays, without hacking, without interrupting the communication. So that means that if those companies, they should be able to compete, they must come up with solutions. Yeah. And I think that's an opportunity for the likes of us and many others, other companies. We are now on our way to the next level of nano satellites. I mentioned 12 view. It could be very easily be extended to 16 new satellites, where the satellites will be able to produce 300 watts at a weight of 30 kilos. If you compare that to a OneWeb satellite, it weighs about 150 kilos and it's able to make 200 watts. So this is an example that the nano satellites, once they become a little bit bigger, they can actually be part of the miniaturization of the total product. And not only they are less expensive to make when they are smaller, but they are also massively less expensive to launch. So because launching satellites into space costs roughly the same as a satellite. So if you can make them lighter, if you take the same number as OneWeb, and they will not be directly competitors, but just as a reference, it's somewhere between $500 million and $1 billion. It will cost less to launch the satellites. So that's the like of competitiveness that we can introduce in the market with this kind of satellites. So this is the kind of thing that we are preparing ourselves in these times. And luckily, we are working with ESA because they are actually investing the core of that for us to be able to make this push.
Okay. Thank you very much, Niels, for a very interesting presentation.
Okay.